Okay, so I'm just going to address a little bit of this. Being a regulator for 25 years and having reviewed Cers and some e-submit in Orange County, I didn't want to walk through the whole Cers submission because most of it's just data. You know, you make sure your data gets in properly, or when you're reviewing it, it's the proper data for the facility you're dealing with. So with new installation, this is what the LIRIS from the state said. This is when to trigger, at least at this point in time, you need to have your data put into Cers or in a local portal. So once the fuel's in the tank, then that information from the owner needs to be in there. Like Angie says, she likes to see it a little earlier so there's established account already, and that you can go towards that when you're working on it. For a new site, all the required modules must be entered in Cers. So once you've gotten the fuel in the tank, you have to enter everything: the hazmat, the training, your site map, that type of thing, before we'll issue a permit. Or not me anymore, sorry. So I now have been on the other side of entering data, which is time consuming as much as it is for you guys to review that. I can verify that it's probably more time consuming getting proper information in there. For an existing location with the addition of a new VPH tank, all the affected modules must be updated. So when you're putting the new tank in, you'll obviously be adding a tank. The owner will be adding a tank. You'll get an additional information with that. If you happen to have a new tank that affects the dispensers or any of the monitoring equipment, all of that will have to be updated throughout the tanks that are affected. So say you have 3 tanks on site, but your new tank is going to go into all your UDCs. At that, you have to make sure that any of the affected data is therefore updated as well. Because as you know, as reviewers, you get the whole module, so you don't get like a portion, so you're going to get everything, so you probably have to review everything again just to make sure. Okay. You're going to complete the following when you start in there. If you're on the side of doing the completion, all the general information, the business activity, the owner-operator ID, your hazmat disclosure, and with differing agencies comes differing requirements for what they want for hazmat, whether it's the minimum amount in hazmat or whether it is some agencies require all hazardous materials to be disclosed. So you just have to make sure that you're in the right jurisdiction when you're doing the entering. Now your map's going to come into play obviously in the training, and sometimes a lot of people use the same facility map for your hazmat and for your tanks, which is fine. You just have to make sure all the data that's required is involved. Okay. The USD Facility Form, of course, that's the one in the UST section of this now. Input your correct ownership, site, contact information. Verify all the information is complete, and on this form, including the BOE number. So if you have a brand new site, what I put on here is if you have a brand new facility, you probably want to make sure that the owner knows they probably need to apply for that BOE number in advance of them getting to the end of things, because it does take a certain period of time in order to get your BOE number, and it may hold up where you're going with the permit and that type of thing. So here I have a little information on the BOE numbers, which did come out in a LIRIS a while ago. If you have a facility that is a non-petroleum facility, this is the number that you would use in the BOE section. And so when you're reviewing it, you would look for this number. Some people say, I'm not a petroleum, I don't have a BOE, I'm not it's an emergency system, I don't have petroleum. And so this is the number that the state has set up in order to, for a non-petroleum site. So you may have this, and I don't know, we don't really have to call a DEF tank a tank, so they don't get anything, and they're not in the system. So as far as a state-owned facility, this is the number assigned. Federally owned facility, this is the assigned number. And if you've ever tried to fill one of these out, if you don't put a number in, if you're missing something, you get the stoplight, you messed up something, and you submit it pops up before you can even get to the next spot. So there are little safety factors built in for the other side when you're putting your data in that you're like, oh, I missed this, oh, I missed that, and you can go back and correct that. So this is especially with the VPH tank now, with all our additives and ethanol and bio and everything that we have coming up with these alternative fuels. This is the way, if you go into the tank content, this is the way that they want you would report. An ethanol containing gasoline, if over 12%, they're saying anything up to 11% is considered regular gasoline. So you don't have to report it as any part of an E12 or E11 or below. Anything over 12 would have to be reported as whatever the content percentage is. Okay, and you have to report that as a petroleum blend fuel. If you have a biodiesel, any question? If we have a biodiesel, report biodiesels greater than B5, because B5 and below is just a diesel. It's considered regular diesel. You report that also as a petroleum blend fuel, and then report biodiesel, B100, with no petroleum additives as other petroleum. Okay, and the renewable diesel is reported as diesel, R1, R100 as diesel. Okay, used oil or waste oil, reported as used oil. Waste transmission fluid, used oil. 100% ethanol, report as ethanol. There's a section to be reported as ethanol. All other petroleum-based substances get reported as other petroleum, and all other regulated substances. Do you have an example of that? Hydrofluoric acid, there you go. In your non-petroleum, other non-petroleum. Or ammonia too. There's another one. Okay, regulated piping for VPH tank systems include product, vent, and vapor, and siphon piping due to the change in definition with AB 2481. So you just want to make sure that they include, all the piping's included. The vent and vapor riser fill piping section will need to be completed for secondary containment and transition vent sumps. Normally, you would have a vent transition. So corrosion protection section is normally checked for isolation only. You're not going to have some of the other things that were with the other tanks. Okay, a monitoring plan is associated with each tank as per usual. VPH tanks will always be continuous monitoring for the tank piping in UDC. There's really no other choice when you get to that point. When reporting sensor model on the monitoring plan, more than one sensor can be noted. So as you've seen before, because we have a sensor in the sump and we have a sensor in the hydrostatic portion of the secondarily contained sump, you're going to have at least two sensor models, and you may have three, depending on your vacuum. And so that section allows for you to write a multiple numbers in it. Yes, because it asks you in the notes. I know. You know what? That's going to be one of those local requirements as well. If the agency decides that they'd rather have their reporting in a different place, when I've been filling some of these out and I had a VPH site, I just put what number it was, comma, number, comma, and so I haven't gotten that thrown back yet. Okay, so let's see, reporting sensor model on the monitoring plan. Okay, periodic system testing, only the spill testing should be marked yes. ELD and secondary containment testing is marked no. In that periodic system testing, what I'm meaning by that, not meaning that they don't need an ELD, but that's not their mode of monitoring. So you're not going to fill those sections in, just the yes for your spill bucket. I just had a couple pictures in here. There's a vacuum sensor model. And I put this one in here because this is one of my new favorites, Dave. The the longer one's the 112. I forget what the smaller one's number is, but this is it 111. Okay. These are, I saw some of these sensors at Costco, and they're a discriminating sensor, but they also have a tamper bottoms on them as well. The reason I bring this up is, and we were talking before about wire length and how numbers can be different. We found one of the whole site was installed in 2007, so it's VPH. When we went along with the monitoring cert, we found out one of the sensors, one of the 112s was actually a 102. And so we started asking questions, what's the 102? Well, the 102 was discontinued to make the 112. And so it had been discontinued prior to 2007. So either there was some old stock that the one got put in during the installation, but it's one of those things to watch when you do the final. Yes, Dave?
Probably some explanation was when we came out with that sensor, there was actually the one that was applicable for gas and one that was for diesel. And then we changed the flows to where the flows work in both fuels.
Okay, so then they both became 112 at that point. So that could have been that one sensor they had was a diesel. And so when we brought this up to Costco, they immediately said, we don't know how it got there and we don't want it. And we said, you can change it out as a like for like, and we're not going to go after you for that. And they're like, all right, you know. Okay, so site monitoring plan, your plot plan, that's always a confusing thing for people, a site monitoring plan. People want to put the monitoring plan in there, and it's actually your plot plan, or what we used to call the plot plan. So it would just be, you know, your site diagram for your tanks and your piping and your sensors and your monitoring plan, that type of thing. So monitoring system, sorry. Your current financial information, designated operator notification, submission of certification of installation. Now that's just going to be on a new install. So some people are kind of missing that because on a new install you're not thinking about we need the old Form C, but that's what that section is available for use by the owner when they're submitting the information. And the ELD test results can be uploaded or submitted to your local agency, whatever you see fit, however you see fit. Okay, that's it, and this is me. My little nephew in Guam made my little logo for me, so. But if there's any questions or not any questions on that, we can show you a couple slimy pictures if you want.
So I guess in closing, we've covered a lot of different subjects today and a lot of material. You're probably tired from doing all these inspections. But our contact information is in the presentation. Any of us are happy to take questions, talk about things. If you think of something tomorrow or next week and you want to run it by, please, you know, we're making ourselves available and be happy to talk to you. Thank you for attending, and it's been a great show, great week.
Thank you for all coming. Hey, we got